According to the National Electrical Code, the minimum service capacity for individual apartments in a multi-family building depends on the number of units in the building and the size of the main service disconnect. For buildings containing 1 to 10 units, the minimum service capacity for each individual apartment is 100 amps. If the building contains between 11 and 49 units, the minimum service capacity for each individual apartment is 125 amps. And finally, for buildings that contain 50 or more units, the minimum service capacity for each individual apartment is 150 amps. In a multi-family building containing 16 apartments and a 600 amp main service disconnect, because the building has more than 10 units, the minimum service capacity for each individual apartment must be at least 125 amps. It is recommended that the service capacity of the apartments be upgraded to meet the NEC requirement of 125 amps. This upgrade will ensure adequate power and safety for the occupants of the apartments. Let's delve a bit deeper into the requirements outlined in the National Electrical Code, often referred to as the NEC, and explore the specific stipulations regarding minimum service capacity for individual apartments located within multi-family dwellings. The NEC serves as the cornerstone for electrical safety standards across the United States, offering detailed guidelines and regulations designed to safeguard individuals and property from electrical hazards. Within the context of multi-family buildings, where numerous dwelling units share common electrical infrastructure, the NEC establishes distinct criteria for determining the appropriate service capacity for each individual apartment. These criteria hinge on several factors, most notably the total number of units within the building and the overall capacity of the main service disconnect. The main service disconnect, in essence, acts as a central control point for the building's entire electrical system, regulating the flow of electricity from the utility grid into the premises. The NEC requirements for minimum service capacity are tiered, meaning that the amperage required for each apartment varies depending on the size of the building. For instance, in smaller multi-family buildings containing between 1 and 10 individual apartment units, the NEC mandates a minimum service capacity of 100 amps for each dwelling. This baseline amperage ensures that residents have sufficient electrical power to meet their basic needs, such as lighting, appliances, and general household use. As the number of units within a building increases, so too does the demand on the electrical infrastructure. To accommodate this increased demand, the NEC stipulates a higher minimum service capacity for larger multi-family buildings. Specifically, for buildings containing between 11 and 49 individual apartment units, the NEC requires a minimum service capacity of 125 amps for each dwelling. This increased amperage provides a greater margin of safety and ensures that residents have access to ample electrical power to support their lifestyles. In the case of larger multi-family buildings with 50 or more individual apartment units, the NEC mandates an even higher minimum service capacity of 150 amps for each dwelling. This substantial amperage reflects the heightened electrical demands of larger residential complexes and ensures that the electrical system can handle the combined load of numerous appliances, devices, and fixtures. It's important to note that these amperage requirements represent the minimum standards set forth by the NEC. Depending on factors such as the size of the apartments, the types of appliances used by residents, and any specific electrical needs, it may be necessary to provide service capacities higher than the minimums outlined in the NEC. Failure to comply with the NEC requirements for minimum service capacity can have significant consequences. Inadequate amperage can lead to overloaded circuits, trip breakers, and potential fire hazards. Moreover, non-compliance with electrical codes can result in fines, penalties, and legal liabilities. Therefore, it's essential for building owners, property managers, and electrical contractors to ensure that all electrical installations within multi-family buildings meet or exceed the NEC minimum service capacity requirements. To ensure compliance with the NEC requirements, it's recommended to engage the services of a qualified electrical contractor. A licensed electrician can assess the electrical needs of a building, evaluate the existing electrical infrastructure, and recommend appropriate upgrades or modifications to meet code requirements. Additionally, it's important to maintain accurate records of all electrical installations, including permits, inspections, and certifications. These records can serve as proof of compliance and provide valuable documentation in the event of any electrical issues or concerns. Regularly scheduled electrical inspections can also help to identify potential problems early on and prevent costly repairs or safety hazards. By adhering to the NEC guidelines and maintaining a proactive approach to electrical safety, building owners and property managers can ensure the well-being of residents and protect their investment. The National Electrical Code (NEC) provides specific guidelines for determining the minimum service capacity required for individual apartments within multi-family buildings. The requirements are structured based on the number of dwelling units contained within the building and are critical for ensuring adequate electrical power and safety. For buildings with 1 to 10 units, each apartment must have a minimum service capacity of 100 amps. This capacity is generally sufficient for smaller buildings where the electrical load per apartment is typically lower. It allows for standard appliances, lighting, and general household electrical usage. Buildings with 11 to 49 units require a high minimum service capacity of 125 amps for each apartment. The increased amperage accounts for the higher overall electrical demand in larger buildings, supporting more appliances and electrical devices per unit. This ensures that the electrical system can handle the combined load without overloading. In buildings with 50 or more units, the NEC mandates a minimum service capacity of 150 amps for each apartment. This higher capacity is necessary to accommodate the significant electrical demand in larger residential complexes. The increased amperage supports a greater number of appliances, more extensive lighting, and higher overall electrical consumption. It is important to note that these are minimum requirements. Depending on the specific electrical needs of the tenants, the actual service capacity may need to be higher. For instance, if an apartment has energy-intensive appliances like electric vehicle chargers or large air conditioning units, a higher service capacity would be necessary. It is also important to consider future needs and potential increases in electrical demand when determining the service capacity. The main service disconnect for the entire building must be adequately sized to handle the total load of all apartments. A 600 amp main service disconnect, as mentioned, must be sufficient to supply all units simultaneously, considering diversity factors, which account for the fact that not all appliances and devices will be in use at the same time. The NEC provides guidelines for calculating the total service load based on various factors, including the size of the apartments, the types of appliances, and the expected occupancy. In cases where the existing service capacity is inadequate, upgrades may be necessary. Upgrading the service capacity can involve replacing the main service panel, increasing the size of the service conductors, and installing new branch circuits. These upgrades must be performed by qualified electricians to ensure compliance with the NEC and local electrical codes. Regular inspections and maintenance are also essential to ensure the continued safety and reliability of the electrical system. Over time, electrical components can degrade, leading to potential hazards such as electrical fires. Regular inspections can identify these issues early on, allowing for timely repairs and replacements. When evaluating the service capacity of individual apartments, it is essential to consider the following factors. The size and layout of the apartment influence the number of lighting fixtures and outlets needed. Larger apartments will generally require more electrical circuits and a higher service capacity. The types of appliances used by the tenants can significantly impact the electrical load. Energy-intensive appliances such as air conditioners, electric heaters, and electric vehicle chargers can place a substantial demand on the electrical system. The number of occupants in the apartment can also affect the electrical load. More occupants typically mean more devices and appliances in use, increasing the overall electrical demand. Local electrical codes and regulations may have additional requirements beyond the NEC. It is essential to consult with local authorities and qualified electricians to ensure compliance with all applicable codes. In summary, the NEC provides clear guidelines for determining the minimum service capacity for individual apartments and multi-family buildings. These requirements are based on the number of units in the building and are designed to ensure adequate electrical power and safety. Regular inspections, maintenance, and upgrades are essential to maintain the integrity and reliability of the electrical system. By following these guidelines and working with qualified professionals, building owners and property managers can provide safe and reliable electrical service to their tenants. The National Electrical Code NEC establishes minimum standards for electrical installations in buildings, including the service capacity for individual apartments and multi-family dwellings. These standards are designed to ensure safety and adequate power supply for residents. The specific requirements for minimum service capacity depend on the number of units within the building. For buildings containing between 1 and 10 dwelling units, the NEC mandates a minimum service capacity of 100 amps for each individual apartment. This level is considered sufficient to handle typical electrical loads associated with smaller apartments, including lighting, small appliances, and general use. For buildings with 11 to 49 units, the NEC requires a minimum service capacity of 125 amps for each apartment. The increase in amperage is to accommodate the higher overall electrical demand expected in larger buildings. This allows residents to use more appliances and devices without overloading the electrical system. For buildings containing 50 or more units, the NEC stipulates a minimum service capacity of 150 amps for each individual apartment. The higher amperage is necessary to handle the substantial electrical demands associated with large residential complexes. It ensures that all residents have sufficient power, even when using multiple appliances simultaneously. It's important to understand that these are minimum requirements. Depending on the specific needs of the occupants, a higher service capacity may be necessary. Factors to consider include the size of the apartment, the types of appliances used, and any specific electrical demands such as electric vehicle charging. The main service disconnect for the entire building must be sized to handle the combined load of all apartments, taking into account diversity factors. Diversity factors recognize that not all appliances and devices will be in use at the same time, allowing for a more efficient use of the electrical system. The NEC provides guidelines for calculating the total service load based on various factors, including the number of apartments, the size of the apartments, and the types of appliances expected to be used. In situations where the existing service capacity is inadequate, upgrades may be required. Upgrading the service capacity may involve replacing the main service panel, increasing the size of the service conductors, and installing new branch circuits. These upgrades should be performed by qualified electricians to ensure compliance with the NEC and local electrical codes. In addition to the NEC, local electrical codes may have additional requirements or more stringent standards. It is essential to consult with local authorities and qualified electricians to ensure full compliance with all applicable codes. Regular inspections and maintenance are also crucial for maintaining the safety and reliability of the electrical system. Over time, electrical components can degrade, leading to potential hazards such as electrical fires. Regular inspections can identify these issues early on, allowing for timely repairs and replacements. Building owners and property managers should establish a schedule for regular electrical inspections and maintenance to ensure the continued safety of their residents. Furthermore, it's essential to educate residents about electrical safety and the proper use of electrical appliances. Residents should be instructed not to overload circuits, use extension cords improperly, or tamper with electrical equipment. Providing residents with information about electrical safety can help prevent accidents and ensure the safe operation of the electrical system. When evaluating the service capacity of individual apartments, it's essential to consider the following factors. The size of the apartment is a primary consideration. Larger apartments will typically require more electrical circuits and a higher service capacity. The types of appliances used by the occupants can significantly impact the electrical load. Energy-intensive appliances such as air conditioners, electric heaters, and electric vehicle chargers can place a substantial demand on the electrical system. The number of occupants in the apartment can also affect the electrical load. More occupants typically mean more devices and appliances in use, increasing the overall electrical demand. Future needs and potential increases in electrical demand should also be considered. It's essential to plan for future electrical needs, such as the installation of new appliances or devices. In summary, the NEC provides clear guidelines for determining the minimum service capacity for individual apartments and multi-family buildings. These requirements are based on the number of units in the building and are designed to ensure adequate electrical power and safety. Regular inspections, maintenance, and upgrades are essential to maintain the integrity and reliability of the electrical system. By following these guidelines and working with qualified professionals, building owners and property managers can provide safe and reliable electrical service to their tenants.